Tonight, those in the Muslim community are calling for the removal of an editorial piece published in the country's largest medical journal.
Why is that an automatic assumption made that, oh, she must be forced into it, oh, she must be oppressed?
The author labeling the hijab an instrument of oppression, many calling the article racist and Islamophobic. We speak to the author and get reaction from the Muslim community. Plus,
I think we're being prudent in preparing for the worst.
Ontario's top doctor says we are on track to seeing more COVID cases per day than ever before. And while ICU numbers remain stable for now, that is expected to change as infections keep soaring. And
I'm fuming because this is so poorly handled.
A struggle to track COVID cases as the province lags behind in testing, with some having to wait days to get a PCR test. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Those in the Muslim community and advocates are calling for the removal of an editorial piece published online this week by Canada's largest medical journal. In it, the writer speaks of the hijab as a symbol of oppression. Now, the National Council of Canadian Muslims calling the piece Islamophobic. Dahlia Ashry now with more.
The headline reads, "Don't use an instrument of oppression as a symbol of diversity and inclusion." The editorial was published yesterday on the Canadian Medical Association Journal's website. Dr. Tuba Ali, a rheumatologist in Oshawa, said she was distraught at work after reading the article.
Very angry, shocked, and very frustrated. I've had to talk to patients about it because it's genuinely on my mind all day.
The article is written by Dr. Sharif Emil, a pediatric surgeon in Montreal. He says it was in response to this image accompanied by another CMAJ article showing two little girls, one black, the other wearing the hijab.
A toddler, like what is the message that we are giving her and our society by covering her? Who is she hiding her sexuality from?
Sometimes little girls wear their mom's high heels. You know, little girls are just trying to understand their identity, right? I think the assumption, oh, that she must be forced into it, that is the wrong assumption.
Many people taken aback with the piece. One person calling it the, quote, most racist and Islamophobic thing I have read. The National Council of Canadian Muslims says the content in the article is a human rights concern.
This does, play into a culture of Islamophobia that could lead to discrimination and violence against Muslims in Canada.
Hijab can be empowering to many women who wear it. I respect and admire them. Many of them do this at a personal cost. I respect that. But it can also be extremely oppressive.
Emil writing in the article that in some cases it, quote, frankly borders on child abuse. NCCM says these are sweeping generalizations and the language used is problematic.
That claim in itself is stigmatizing and possibly creates some very serious barriers for people who are going to be providing care to Muslim girls.
The CMAJ has released an apology on Twitter, and in a letter, its interim editor-in-chief says, "I understand how the publication of the letter has traumatized many Muslim people who are facing everyday Islamophobia. I deeply regret that and will be consulting with other editors." As for Dr. Ali, the question remains.
Why is that something that we as Muslims still have to come forward to defend, that this is a part of our lifestyle, this is a part of our religion, and this is who we are, and this is how we exist.
Dr. Emil tells me he's received hate messages today, but he doesn't believe the article should be redacted. The piece remains on the CMAJ website. I contacted the interim editor-in-chief to see if they have plans to remove it, but I didn't hear back in time for broadcast. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
Turning to the pandemic now and the impact of the Omicron variant. Ontario's chief medical officer says the province is on track to have more COVID cases a day than ever before. The surging number is putting a strain on COVID testing and tracing, so much so that Ontarians are being asked to do their own personal contact tracing if they test positive. Lorena Redekop has the latest.
We are currently tracking to have more cases per day than we have ever had during the entire pandemic.
The percentage of people testing positive is up, today at 9.9%. The chief medical officer says hospitalizations have also increased by 9% in a week, today rising above 400. Numbers show it's still mostly unvaccinated people in hospital with COVID-19 and also in the ICU.
While the ICU occupancy remains stable, we anticipate that in the coming days and weeks, we will start to see a greater impact of Omicron on hospitalizations and our intensive care unit.
He says so far, of 4,600 Omicron cases, only 15 have ended up in hospital, but cautions that it's younger people so far who've gotten the variant, and none have needed the ICU, but they're preparing.
We're actively monitoring when all of that transitions to Omicron and trying to separate when Omicron starts having an impact on hospitalization and on admission to the intensive care unit as a signal that we are going to have to take potential extra precautions and monitor the situation very closely.
Today, both Toronto's mayor and the premier got their booster shots, but people have also waited hours in lines and left disappointed.
You have the vaccines, you have the supply, you have the willing arms. If the only bottleneck is the capacity to administer these vaccines quickly, I mean, obviously that's the area to focus on. And if you have personnel, be it the Army, be it healthcare providers that aren't being mobilized that can be put to good use, let's do it. Let's mobilize.
Dr. Moore also encouraged people who test positive to reach out to any contacts, since contact tracers can't keep up. While the variant is new with many questions, he's hopeful.
I think we're being prudent in preparing for the worst. I certainly hope for the best, and I'm optimistic, but I don't want to overcall it.
For holiday gatherings, he advises people keep them small. Consider meeting virtually or outdoors. He says Ontario preparing for the worst case scenario will save lives and protect the healthcare system. Lorenda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
The high number of new cases is causing problems for the province's health system. Now, officials are rethinking how to track COVID cases. Chris Glover has more on that.
Lots of throat lozenges, some gloves, a couple of KN95 masks, and just had this ready to go.
Daniel Baer finally had to put his emergency COVID kit into action. Sunday night, he tested positive with a rapid test. The Toronto man wants a PCR test to confirm it, but the earliest appointment he could get was Thursday, 20 minutes from his house.
If the system is excluding data, particularly from people who may not have the time or resources to go travel 20 or 30 kilometers, 5 days from now, then we're really going to undercut our ability to reduce disease transmission.
If that happens big picture, and a lot of people who test positive on a rapid test end up not being able to or not being willing to go get a PCR test, what is that going to do for our understanding of how COVID is spreading in Ontario?
It's a real gap. It's a real breakdown in the system. And this is, in many ways, the worst time to have a breakdown in our lab testing capacity.
Ottawa Public Health says it can't keep up with surging PCR testing demand. Province-wide diagnostic labs are completing 90% of PCR tests within 2 days of collection. But Ontario Health warns turnaround times are likely to increase as the COVID surge intensifies. As COVID gobbles up testing resources, a worrying reality is sinking in.
There has been a delay in issuing cancer results. There has been a delay in issuing results on infection. That is not the situation we want to be in.
To alleviate the pressure, Peterborough Public Health is advising people to upload positive rapid test results online so it can still get a sense of the COVID problem.
If you can give us 24, 48 hours to get further review of access.
Ontario's medical officer says he may soon give the green light for rapid tests to count as a diagnostic substitute. But even getting a rapid test is proving to be infuriating.
This is the downtown core of Toronto. Yeah.
Online, this Mississauga vaccine clinic today was advertised as a rapid test giveaway as well. But after waiting for hours, many found out no tests.
Frustrated, disappointed, cheated.
I'm fuming because this is so poorly handled.
Unacceptable, she says, since 2 years in, and Ontario is still struggling with its COVID response. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The Ontario government says they're going to track down and fine anyone looking to cash in on the rapid test frenzy. Government and Consumer Services Minister Ross Romano says reselling rapid test kits is a breach of the government emergency orders. Fines range from $750 to $100,000 for individuals and up to $10 million for corporations. Romano says 900 complaints about rapid test resales have been referred to the police so far. Meteorologist Nick Cernkovich joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Nick, first day of winter and a pretty calm one. Some showers and flurries, though, just around the corner.
Yeah, not a bad way to ring in winter with temperatures up around 2 degrees in the GTA. So that, of course, well above the seasonal mark. Things are changing, though. We've got cold weather moving in, and yeah, we've got some rain and snow flurries tonight, so it's going to be a bit of a transition. There's a look at our daytime highs today, so above the zero mark for just about everybody in southern Ontario. We are watching the system, though, that's moving down across the region this evening, and as it pushes across with milder temperatures, we'll see some light rain showers, then switching over to flurries as the temperatures begin to drop behind the system. As the winds shift out of the northwest, we're looking at snow squalls developing off Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, and that basically makes for a flurry or light snowfall event for the day tomorrow. So some more winter-like weather in the forecast. That kind of continues basically till Thursday morning before it tapers off and another system moves in Thursday night. Here's a look at tonight's temperatures: -3 degrees, wind chill of -10. Again, some slick roads for tomorrow morning. High of 0 tomorrow. I'll have your full forecast coming up in just a bit.
Thanks so much, Nick. Toronto police say one person was arrested outside the Premier's home last night. This was the scene as a group of anti-vaccination demonstrators gathered outside the Premier's residence. Police say the woman who was arrested breached a barricade and failed to comply with officers. She was cautioned and released. Last week, protesters also gathered outside the home of Health Minister Christine Elliott. And the Premier's office putting out a statement about the demonstration, saying a large group of loud and disruptive protesters were camped outside his home again this weekend, disturbing his neighbors and blocking his family from entering their home. The only thing these people are doing is targeting and harassing innocent neighbors and family members who have nothing to do with the government's decision-making. The statement adds that people who want to protest should do so at Queen's Park. Well, the holiday season is upon us, and this is typically one of the busiest travel weeks of the year. For many, plans are still going ahead, despite the federal government advising against travel right now. Today, Greg Ross spoke to travelers who are facing new restrictions and a lot more stress.
It looked like a typical day at the airport, but for many travelers, it was anything but.
Definitely more work for everybody.
You don't know where you're going. You don't know what's up, what's down, you know.
There were plenty who were confused over travel restrictions, not only in the city they were leaving, but also in the one they were headed to.
Every day, I was kind of like looking at latest information that's available, which is so dynamic in nature considering the situation that we're in, and it was ever changing.
This man booked a trip to India before the latest travel advisory. He's headed there to be with family he hasn't seen in a long time.
In almost 4 years, I'll be surprised if they recognize me.
International travelers now also have to worry about the potential for guidelines to change while they're out of the country. Re-entry requirements have been updated as recently as today, with the federal government now requiring all travelers to have a negative PCR test before getting back into Canada, even those who have been gone for less than 72 hours.
I've been thinking, what if situation changes? It could be something as simple as you requiring mandatory quarantine upon arrival, something of that sort, or, maybe you need to be fully vaccinated with the booster.
Even those traveling domestically found that COVID guidelines vary from province to province.
Not sure what they're going to require because I know New Brunswick's a little bit different.
Many we spoke to were taking extra precautions to ensure their trip went smoothly.
Double mask, and plus we are fully vaccinated with the booster.
The latest travel restrictions and guidelines have not caused many interruptions or cancellations for Air Canada so far. A spokesperson telling us today they continue to operate on their schedule as normal. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Officials are investigating in Scarborough after a resident in the Queen East and Victoria Park Avenue area allegedly cut down an oak tree in order to build a pool. The move coming after the city denied a permit to take down the tree. Talia Ricci has this story.
These Southwest Scarborough residents say it's the towering trees that make the area special, and protecting them is important.
The city has a goal of densification, and we understand that. And, we will lose trees because of densification.
But when neighbors recently noticed a tree was allegedly being removed illegally, they informed the city. Earlier this year, they rallied together, creating a petition to raise awareness on the importance of trees.
150 plus signatures we got in 72 hours on a long weekend. And 95% of the people that we spoke to, a group of volunteers, voiced concern about losing more trees.
The city said it's investigating the case, but can't provide any specific details, adding it takes infractions under the private tree bylaw very seriously.
A minimum fine for removal of a tree is $500 under the municipal code, up to a maximum of $100,000 per tree, and also a special fine of $100,000 in cases where there's a specific economic gain identified.
And Toronto is lucky to have.
Gary Crawford, city councillor for Scarborough Southwest, said the property owners on Blantyre Ave were given permits to remove 6 trees when they built 2 homes on the property, but the permit to take down 4 more trees in the backyard to build a pool was denied.
That particular area, in areas in Scarborough have very strong, beautiful tree canopies, and we want to ensure, even though the development is happening, we want to ensure for the future generations and people that move into the area that we continue to try to protect our tree canopy.
A sentiment shared by those who have lived in the neighborhood for decades.
Hoping to see some real awareness about the unique nature of the trees here and for the city to take action. The city have rules in place and they should enforce them. We need to do what we can to preserve what's left.
CBC News attempted to reach the property owners on Blantyre Ave and did not receive a response. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, cloudy with a few clear breaks tonight. Some mixed precipitation developing overnight. Currently, it is 3 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Nick now with a look at your extended forecast. And Nick, it's looking more and more like it will be a wet Christmas.
Yeah, wet Christmas would be what I'd expect heading into Friday night and Saturday. All of our sort of winter weather is going to happen over the next couple of days, and then we get a bit of a warm-up heading into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Here's a look at your weather headlines. We've got temperatures falling for tonight. We've got gusty winds in the forecast and snowfall before, not for, before Christmas. That's going to be coming, especially for Thursday. Here's a look at the first system that's headed for the GTA. This is for tonight. Some light rain showers and flurries, making for some slick road conditions and likely icing up your car for tomorrow morning because the temperatures will drop through the overnight. Then, as we head through tomorrow afternoon, snow squalls set up off Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. And so areas to the north, poor driving conditions for the GTA. Locally, we could pick up a couple centimeters of snow, but generally just flurries for most of the city of Toronto. Kind of tapers off into Thursday morning, and then another system heads in for Thursday evening. This one might actually bring with it some accumulating snows. In terms of how much, with the first round, about 1 centimeter depending on where you are. So that's for sort of tonight and tomorrow, but it's going to be fairly localized in nature. As that second round moves through, though, another 2 to 4 centimeters of snow expected by Friday morning, but it's not going to stick around. Temperatures are actually going to rise. Most of it should melt. Windy conditions as well here, gusts up to about 60 kilometers per hour for tomorrow morning. That means wind chills will be about -10 for tomorrow. Overnight tonight, -5 degrees down in southwestern Ontario. Tomorrow, -3 degrees for the most part in cloud cover. Most of the flurries and the snow squalls stick toward the Golden Horseshoe. -3 tonight. As we head through tomorrow, we're looking at highs of about 0 degrees with snow squall activity. So locally, a couple centimeters in the GTA, but for the most part, just some flurries there. -1 on Thursday. Again, some accumulating snows Thursday through Friday morning, and then temperatures start to rise, and it looks like more of a rainfall event, albeit a light rainfall event for Christmas Day. Kelda.
Thanks so much, Nick. An Ontario-based charity is doing their part to keep the homeless warm by giving away hundreds of toques to organizations across the GTA.
Christmas is just around the corner, and a lot of these people don't have a nice gift that they can give for themselves. So we're happy to be able to come down here and give the gift of warmth here. You lose a lot of your body heat through your head, so that's why we chose toques as one of the primary things to donate. And it's something that a lot of people may lose every once in a while.
Toques from the Heart donated 2,500 hats today. In total, they've given away more than 6,000 this year. The initiative began 3 years ago, but this year is their first time doing in-person donations in a countrywide expansion. 150 GTA families are getting a boost this holiday season thanks to the Great Turkey Give.
It makes you feel good, and when you drive around the city these days, you see all the sad faces and the poverty, and you just want to do what you can to help out.
This was the 6th edition of the food giveaway. Freeman Realty partnered with a local grocery store and area churches and synagogues to give food supplies to families in need. And they even had a special holiday guest with them to stock the shopping carts.